Before he was a devil of Hell's Kitchen, this man was just a kid blinded by tragedy and forged into one of Marvel's most relentless street-level heroes. Who's Daredevil? We're about to find out in this video. To start off, Daredevil first appeared in Daredevil issue 1 in 1964. Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, was born and raised in the greedy neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen, New York City. His mother, Maggie Murdock, left the family early in Matt's life, and he was raised by his father, battling Jack Murdock, a struggling small-time boxer. Jack instilled a strong sense of right and wrong in Matt, emphasizing the importance of education over violence. Jack wanted a better life for his son, urging him to focus on his studies and avoid the rough streets. However, Matt's early life wasn't a walk in the park. He was frequently bullied by other kids for being a bookworm and refusing to fight back. To let out his frustration, Matt secretly went to the gym and kept hitting the punching bag relentlessly. Jack was forced to work as an enforcer for a local mobster, Roscoe Sweeney, also known as a Fixer. He had to listen to what the Fixer instructed him to do, or else Matt's life would be in danger. The payments Jack received from his unethical deeds helped him and Matt survive, but he was still disgusted with himself nevertheless. Matt's life changed forever one day when he saw an elderly man about to be hit by a truck carrying radioactive waste. In a split-second act of heroism, Matt pushed the man to safety, but not without a cost. A canister of radioactive chemicals broke open, splashing into Matt's eyes. Matt was blind for life, but he received special gifts as his other senses were enhanced to superhuman levels. He could now hear heartbeats, detect lies through voice modulation, sense many air vibrations, and even see through a kind of radar sense. However, Matt would need help to harness these new abilities. After his accident, Matt was approached by a mysterious blind man known as Stick. Stick was a member of a secretive warrior group known as the Chaste, who were longtime enemies of the ancient evil organization called the Hand, a mystical ninja cult bent on spreading corruption and mayhem. Stick secretly trained and taught Matt to hone his senses, turning his disability into an advantage. He trained him in martial arts, stealth, balance, and control, shaping Matt into a living weapon. However, Stick saw emotions as a weakness. He was emotionally distant and harsh. He kept pushing Matt toward discipline at the cost of emotional attachment, leading up to Jack Murdock's death. The Fixer would be a major influence in Jack's boxing career as he had fights rigged to boost it without Jack knowing about it. This arrangement would take a dark turn when the Fixer wanted Jack to throw an upcoming fight, but during a boxing match, Matt was in the audience and Jack wanted to make his son proud, so he won the fight, going against what the Fixer instructed him to do. This costed Jack's life as the Fixer's henchmen ganged up on him, beat, and shot him to death. This led to Matt wanting to seek vengeance. He hunted down anybody he could find that linked back to the Fixer until he found him. He tried to escape Matt, but he would quickly catch up to him into the subway station. The Fixer was freaking out so much that he gave himself a heart attack. He died on the spot, leaving Matt with one member left of the crew that was involved in Jack Murdock's death. Matt found him in a brothel. The women in there tried to gang up on Matt while he tried to attack the last member of the Fixer's crew until he accidentally pushed one of the women out of the window. Matt ran out as he panicked, thinking he ended the woman's life, and tried to go to the location where he and Stick usually meet up at. When he got there, Stick was nowhere to be found. He abandoned Matt due to him thinking Matt was too emotional and not ready for what he trained him to be. 1 year later, Matt attends Columbia University to pursue his law degree. He met and became roommates with his soon-to-be best friend and partner Franklin Nelson. Matt nicknamed him Foggy due to how loud he snores when he sleeps. Matt kept Foggy safe from any bullies at the time and even made one of them apologize to Foggy. During this time, he met Elektra. She was a thrill seeker but also had a dark side to her unknown to Matt if I had to summarize her personality at the time. She was attracted to Matt, especially after watching him run across rooftops. Both of them grew feelings for each other. Stick had to pay a visit to Matt and warn him about Elektra, telling him to stay away from her, but Matt didn't listen. He kept on being involved with Elektra until she had to break up with him and leave after her father died. Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, makes his debut around this time. Years later, Matt finds work at a Boston firm named Sussman and Castro. It was manageable until he was told to take a flight back to New York City. After the flight back and into Hell's Kitchen, the past was flooding into Matt's mind as he walked through the dirty streets. Matt visits the gym he used to go to as a kid. It's abandoned, but a little girl named Mickey was there as well. Matt befriends and trains her at the gym. He also tells her about Jack Murdock when she saw a poster of him, but it misrepresented him. Foggy was in Hell's Kitchen and reunited with Matt when he was working on a case at the law firm he was working for. He asked Matt for help with this case and he jumped at the opportunity to help his friend. This made Matt remember the reasons why he wanted to become an attorney in the first place, to fight for justice and to fight the bullies. During this time, Mickey got kidnapped by the Kingpin's men. The firm Matt worked for eventually called him, telling him to take a flight back to Boston. He said his goodbyes to Foggy and wanted to say goodbye to Mickey before heading to the airport, but all he found was Mickey's hat. Matt automatically knew something was wrong. He knew Mickey loved her hat to the point she wrote her name and an address on it. He went on the hunt wearing his first and iconic black outfit you guys and girls saw in the Daredevil show on Netflix back then. Matt tracked Mickey all the way down to to a warehouse where other children were kept locked up and guarded by Kingpin's men. Matt took down most of the guys and called up to Mickey, who's being held by one of Kingpin's top guys named Larks. Matt told him to let Mickey go as he didn't want to end his life, but Larks took the shot anyway. Matt deflected the bullet and it ricocheted back into the center of Larks' forehead, instantly ending his life. Mickey was saved and Matt received a call from his boss the next morning telling him that he was fired for not returning to Boston in time. Matt didn't care, laughed it off, and met up with Foggy to talk to him about creating their own law firm in Hell's Kitchen named Nelson and Murdock. Matt made up his mind to stay in Hell's Kitchen and become his guardian as Daredevil. After Nelson and Murdock was established as an official law firm, with Karen Page as their recently hired secretary, their first ever client varies depending on which iteration of Daredevil's backstory you read, but I'll go off with Daredevil Yellow. In that story, the Fantastic Four became their first ever clients. They needed legal assistance to handle the paperwork and licensing for the Baxter Building, patents, and the public operations of the Fantastic Four. This didn't involve Matt suiting up as Daredevil, but it was interesting to see Marvel's most well-known superhero family getting help from Nelson and Murdock. Matt took down small-time criminals as Daredevil until he encountered his very first supervillain, Leland Owlsley, aka the Owl. The Owl is a crooked financier turned mob boss who sets up base in a penthouse lair. Karen got captured by the Owl. Daredevil eventually saved her and stopped him from committing any more crimes. Afterwards, Daredevil has encountered and stopped many supervillains such as the Purple Man, Gladiator, Mr. Fear, Stiltman, and even Elektra. But as far as his main villains that reappear the most, especially in some of the most well-known Daredevil storylines, we all know it was Kingpin, Bullseye, and the Hand that really made a mark on him. I'm not going to go over Bullseye too much in the video, only key parts that impacted Daredevil's life since I already made an origin video about him. If you want to check out Bullseye's origin video, here's a link to that video on the top right hand corner of the video. In Daredevil issue 168, Elektra's first official appearance, she re-enters Matt's life, but she has fully embraced her darker nature. Now working as a hired assassin, she's no longer the girl Matt once knew. Despite this, the romance between them still shows signs of lingering, especially after Matt saves her from danger and she realizes he's Daredevil. This is during Frank Miller's iconic run on Daredevil, and things intensify when the Kingpin makes a dramatic return. Daredevil and Kingpin first crossed paths during a power vacuum in New York as rival gangs fight for control. This vacuum forms after Fisk leaves the city and the criminal underworld behind to settle down with Vanessa. However, his attempt at a peaceful life is shattered when one of his former lieutenants tries to lure him back by kidnapping Vanessa. Forced to act, Fisk returns as the Kingpin to reclaim his throne in the criminal underworld and rescue her. Meanwhile, Daredevil is trying to maintain order, which eventually leads to his first direct confrontation with Kingpin. Though Matt tries to stop him from regaining control, Kingpin ultimately succeeds, marking the beginning of his role as Daredevil's greatest nemesis. Kingpin then hires Elektra as his personal assassin, creating further tension between her and Matt. But this arrangement is short-lived. Bullseye, furious after learning he's been replaced, confronts Elektra in Daredevil issue 181. The two clash and Bullseye fatally stabs her. Mortally wounded, Elektra manages to make her way to Matt's home, where she dies in his arms. Grief-stricken and enraged, Matt sets a trap for Bullseye's return. When Bullseye breaks into Matt's place, Daredevil is ready. In their brutal confrontation, Daredevil ultimately lets Bullseye fall, seemingly to his death. However, Bullseye survives the fall, left paralyzed instead of dying on impact. In Daredevil issue 190, the Hand make their move by digging up Elektra's body in an effort to resurrect her through a ritual and use her as their own living weapon. Daredevil, Black Widow, and a member of the Chaste named Stone attempt to stop them, but they fail, and Elektra's body is taken. Desperate, Daredevil does something drastic. He goes to the Kingpin and asks for help locating the Hand, knowing it won't come without a price. After completing the favor Kingpin demands, Daredevil receives the location where the Hand is conducting the ritual. He and Stone launch an assault to stop it, leading to another intense battle with the Hand. In the midst of the chaos, Daredevil hears a heartbeat and rushes to Elektra's body, tuning out everything around him. He uses a technique taught to him by Stick in an attempt to bring her back. At first he believes he failed, but in reality, he succeeds in helping her return to life, her soul cleansed. It's a strange moment, but the important takeaway is that Daredevil plays a crucial role in Elektra's resurrection. Leading up to the Born Again story arc, Matt's life is relatively stable. He continues his dual existence as a dedicated attorney and the vigilante Daredevil, striving to uphold justice in Hell's Kitchen. However, his downfall begins with his ex-girlfriend Karen Page, who has become an addict. For context, she left New York some time ago to pursue an acting career, but it led her down a dark path into adult films, and she eventually developed a drug addiction. In a moment of desperation, she sold Matt's identity as Daredevil to get a quick fix. This information eventually reached the Kingpin, who, now aware of Matt's true identity, set out to destroy his life. Kingpin manipulates the IRS to freeze Matt's bank accounts, plunging him into financial instability. He also coerces Police Lieutenant Nicholas Manolis into falsely testifying that Matt bribed the witness, leading to Matt's disbarment and loss of his license to practice law. Matt's romantic relationship with his then girlfriend Gloriana O'Brien falls apart as she seeks comfort in Foggy, further isolating him. Kingpin escalates his assault by having Matt's apartment firebombed, leaving him homeless and vulnerable. Matt was pushed into a state of paranoia and aggression after the Kingpin made so many strategic moves to ruin his life. Matt was beyond his breaking point, and he set out to confront the Kingpin directly, which ends with Matt being brutally beaten and left for dead. To cover his tracks, the Kingpin stages an accident, placing Matt's unconscious body in a taxi and submerging it in the East River. Miraculously, Matt escapes but is left severely injured and aimless. He walks through the streets of Hell's Kitchen and collapses near the gym where his father once trained. He is discovered by his sister Maggie, a nun who is later revealed to be his estranged mother. Under her care, Matt begins the difficult process of physical and spiritual healing. Haunted by guilt over betraying Matt, Cameron returns to New York too in search of forgiveness and redemption. Her path, however, is fraught with danger. After his recovery, Matt steps in to protect her from any threats sent by the Kingpin. He forgives her, demonstrating the depth of his spiritual growth during his time under Maggie's care, and helps her through the process of detoxing from her addiction. Matt also rescues his friend Ben Urich, who had uncovered Kingpin's involvement in his downfall. By the end of the story, the Kingpin is exposed for his crimes, and Matt begins the process of rebuilding his life. In Daredevil issue 298, part of the Last Right storyline, Nick Fury informs Daredevil about the Kingpin's involvement with Hydra. Fury provides evidence linking Kingpin's media empire to Hydra. After spending time rebuilding his life and regaining stability, Matt decides it's time to return the favor to the Kingpin by dismantling his empire and ensuring his reputation in the criminal underworld, basically making him look like a bitch, using the intel Fury gave him. Daredevil uses this information strategically, spreading rumors within the underworld that Kingpin is being manipulated by Hydra. By Daredevil issue 300, Matt's plan succeeds. Kingpin's empire begins to crumble, his assets are frozen, his influence fades, and his remaining allies abandon him. In a desperate attempt to strike back, Kingpin tries to frame Daredevil, but the plan backfires, further exposing his downfall. He really shot himself in the foot, and in the final confrontation, Daredevil faces Kingpin not just as a fighter, but as a man in full control. Fisk is defeated and ultimately forced to leave New York in disgrace, and of course embarrassment. This arc marks a turning point for Matt, showing that he has evolved beyond being just a street-level brawler. He's now a master strategist capable of bringing down even the most powerful figures like the Kingpin. Moving on to the Guardian Devil storyline, a frightened teenage girl arrives at the law firm where Matt and Foggy are working at the time, claiming she was divinely impregnated. She says the vision guided her to bring the baby to Matt, knowing he is Daredevil, and that he would be able to protect the child. After leaving the baby in Matt's care, the girl mysteriously disappears. In reality, some men took her and you don't see her again, let's just say that. A little later, while Matt is conducting research to determine the child's parentage, a mysterious man named Nicholas McCabe appears and begins speaking with him. Nicholas insists that the baby must be destroyed, claiming it may be the prophesied destroyer of the world. He manipulates Matt into a spiral of religious doubt, paranoia, and moral conflict, preying on his trauma and guilt. Their conversation ended when Nicholas left a cross in Matt's hand. As the story unfolds, Matt's road begins to unravel. Foggy finds himself in legal trouble after being accused of ending a client's life he had an affair with. Karen Page returns to New York City again and confides in Matt that she contracted an STD. So let me get this straight. She was Matt's ex-girlfriend before Born Again, and then got back with Matt after Born Again, and then broke up with Matt and left New York City. And now she's back in New York City expecting comfort from Matt after everything she's put him through. I don't know about y'all, but in the comics, Karen Page is toxic as hell to me. In the show, she's alright, but in the comics, no way. She's not as toxic as MJ, but she just one of these people you just run away from. There's no way I'm letting a person like that back in my life. Hell nah. Outside of that, Matt becomes increasingly unstable, convinced that the baby might be evil and is manipulating him. His paranoia escalates to the point where he contemplates whether ending the baby's life is the only way to save the world. Reaching a breaking point, Matt takes the child to the Catholic Church and pleads with Sister Maggie and the other nuns to care for it, fearing his presence might endanger the baby. Eventually, Matt turns to Dr. Strange, who helps him realize he's been drugged and hallucinating through the cross Nicholas gave him. Strange clears all the drugs and toxins from Matt's body. He also allows Matt to speak with Mephisto, who warns him that something tragic is about to happen at the church. Realizing the truth, Daredevil races back to the church, but tragedy strikes. Bullseye, hired by Nicholas, ambushes the church. In a devastating moment, he ends Karen Page's life by impaling her with Daredevil's own billy club and takes the baby. She dies in Matt's arms, marking yet another traumatic loss in his life thanks to Bullseye. fueled by grief and rage. Daredevil quickly tracks down Nicholas and discovers he's actually Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio in disguise. Mysterio reveals that he's dying of terminal cancer and wanted to go out with a masterpiece, and he paid the Kingpin for everything he knew about Daredevil, including his secret identity. Beck confesses to everything, including hiring Bullseye, framing Foggy, drugging Matt, staging the virgin birth and prophecy, and even lying to Karen about having an STD. His ultimate plan was to shatter Daredevil spiritually and mentally before dying. Mysterio admits he couldn't attempt something like this with Spider-Man, who's too experienced to fall for his illusions after their many battles in the past. But Daredevil, that's a different story. Burdened by trauma and inner conflict, was the perfect target. After his confession, Mysterio hopes Daredevil will end his life in a fit of rage, but Matt refuses. Instead, he tells Mysterio that despite everything, he still failed. Enraged and without another escape, Mysterio takes his own life with a gunshot to the head, ending all the drama in this arc. Though the pain remains, things slowly begin to improve after Karen's funeral. Foggy is cleared of all charges. Matt names the baby Karen after saving her from Mysterio and bringing her to St. Vincent's Hospital so she could be up for adoption. The Nelson and Murdock law firm is later restored thanks to a life insurance policy Karen left behind for Matt. What stands out to me the most during his time of recovery was a reflective moment Daredevil has with Spider-Man on the bridge where Gwen Stacy died. Instead of giving advice or trying to fix anything, Spider-Man simply shares his sympathy and pain, drawing from his own experience losing Gwen Stacy. He acknowledges Matt's grief and reminds him that beneath the masks, they're still human, capable of love, loss, and heartbreak. Spider-Man lets Daredevil vent to him, and when Daredevil asks Spider-Man one thing that makes sense after everything Mysterio put him through, Spider-Man responded that he saved the baby girl, bringing Daredevil back to reality. It's a rare moment of vulnerability between the two heroes, and then reminding Matt that he's not alone. Spider-Man gives him the first emotional anchor he needs to begin healing. Both Spider-Man and Daredevil lost loved ones to one of the most dangerous villains. You know what? It's crazy, I just thought about this. Green Goblin was responsible for Gwen's death, but Bullseye takes the cake by taking away two of Daredevil's love interests. On top of that, both of these villains ended up in the Thunderbolts and Dark Avengers. I'm just saying, if this was real life, these lunatics would not be breathing, especially Bullseye. What's that saying? If you get me once, shame on you, but if you get me twice, shame on me. Oh hell nah, similar to what I said in the Bullseye origin video, if I was Daredevil, Bullseye would be gone. Ain't no way you're gonna get me a third time. After hearing about Karen Page's death, Kingpin tried to use Echo to destroy Daredevil by making her think Daredevil was responsible for her father's death, even though it wasn't true. It didn't work out for Fisk, and Echo shot him after she found out he lied to her. But Kingpin would survive. He just ended up blind for a few months. Daredevil would soon have another face-off against Fisk after he sent Typhoid Mary and Bullseye after him. After Fisk was defeated and sent to Rikers Island prison, Daredevil became the new Kingpin of Hell's Kitchen and prevented crime from happening in Hell's Kitchen during this time. But we can't forget that this is Daredevil we're talking about. Even though he overcame all this, his mental state was rapidly going down. This would take its course later. Remember that, especially leading up to the Shadowland story arc. Let's move on to what Matt was up to during the Marvel Civil War event. And spoiler alert, it wasn't sunshine and rainbows. At this point, Matt Murdock has been arrested by the FBI and sent to Rikers Island. This stemmed from events in Daredevil Volume 2, where his identity as Daredevil was exposed in the media, leading to a series of legal battles. Instead of confirming or denying the allegations, Matt chose to be incarcerated, spending just over a month in Rikers. It was a dangerous situation, like a cop sent to prison, surrounded by inmates looking for revenge. Sure enough, trouble came quickly. Hammerhead arranged for inmates who held grudges against Matt to attack him, especially since he didn't buy into the news about Daredevil still being active on the outside. But as always, Matt held his own. Meanwhile, Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist, donned the Daredevil costume to keep up appearances and confuse the public and authorities, buying time to protect Matt's secret identity. Things took a dark turn when Foggy visited Matt in prison and seemingly had his life taken shortly after. Matt was devastated. He could hear Foggy struggling and believed he died. Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, heard about Matt being locked up and deliberately got himself arrested to check in on him. Frank mostly stayed on the sidelines until a full-blown prison break erupted. During the chaos, Matt stopped both Kingpin and Bullseye from escaping. Then he went to meet up with Frank so they could escape Rikers together. Once free, Matt tracked down the man impersonating Daredevil only to discover it was Iron Fist helping protect his secret identity. Now that's a loyal friend right there. If you have that type of friend or friends in real life, you better make sure you keep them close to you, no joke. You don't know how rare it is to find a friend like that in real life. But anyways, with Danny holding things down in New York, Matt traveled to Europe to uncover who was truly behind everything. It was there that he discovered Vanessa Fisk was pulling the strings from behind the scenes. She had orchestrated the entire plot, faking Foggy's death, hiring Iron Fist to pose as Daredevil, and getting both Matt and Fisk locked up, blaming them for how her life turned out. Vanessa offered to clear Matt's name and restore his secret identity if he agreed to help release Kingpin from prison as a lawyer, but Matt refused. His answer didn't matter anyway since Vanessa was several steps ahead. She had already arranged for the FBI director who imprisoned Matt to end up 6 feet under, staging it as if he ended his own life and left a note admitting that he framed Matt. That setup ultimately led to Matt being cleared of all charges, and Wilson Fisk had his record wiped clean too, but he couldn't attend Vanessa's funeral as part of her revenge. With his US citizenship revoked, Fisk left the country and Matt Murdock walked away a free man, moving the Nelson and Murdock law firm to new location, though not without scars. The Hand soon resurfaces, led in part by Lady Bullseye, who begins manipulating the organization's internal politics to persuade him that Matt Murdock should become their new leader. Her true goal is to corrupt Daredevil and bring him fully under the Hand's control, believing that his inner turmoil makes him susceptible to their influence. Meanwhile, Master Izo, one of the founding members of the Hand and a former member of the Chaste, personally approaches Matt with a similar proposal, but for a very different reason. Izo believes the only way to purify or ultimately destroy the Hand is for someone truly righteous to take control from within, and he sees Matt as the ideal candidate. While Lady Bullseye seeks to drag Matt down into darkness, Izo wants to elevate him, albeit through morally greater manipulation. To further their plans, Lady Bullseye and the Hand orchestrate a brutal attack not only on Daredevil but also target Wilson Fisk, who is living a peaceful new life in Spain. They slaughtered the woman he loves and her children, effectively pulling him back into his old life and pushing him toward revenge. Instead of falling into the Hand's trap, Fisk returns to New York and forms a temporary alliance with Daredevil to take down Lady Bullseye and the Hand. Foggy, disapproving of Matt's collaboration with Fisk, ends up firing him from the law firm. However, the alliance doesn't last long. Fisk secretly intends to seize control of the Hand himself and ultimately betrays Matt. The arc culminates in a final confrontation between Daredevil, Kingpin, and Lady Bullseye. Daredevil defeats both of them and, in a shocking decision, accepts leadership of the Hand, but on his own terms. He declares that the Hand must cut all ties with Kingpin and Lady Bullseye, believing he can reshape the organization into a force for justice. As an act of retaliation and manipulation, Wilson Fisk sends Lady Bullseye to assassinate 2 of Norman Osborn's key associates. This was part of a larger scheme. Fisk frames the murders to make it appear as though they were carried out on Daredevil's orders, using the Hand as his personal death squad. The goal, to provoke Osborn into viewing Daredevil as a legitimate national security threat. The plan works, and in response, Osborn authorizes Bullseye, who at the time is operating as Hawkeye within the Dark Avengers, to eliminate Daredevil. Bullseye tracks Matt down and rather than confront him directly, blows up an entire apartment building. The explosion slaughters over 100 people, marking one of Bullseye's most heinous and indiscriminate acts of violence. While I could have included this event in the Bullseye origin video, it serves more as a powerful transition into Daredevil's next chapter. This moment doesn't just deepen the stakes, it breaks something inside Matt. He survives the blast, but the sheer scale of the massacre pushes him further into darkness, reinforcing the belief that only through the Hand's brutal authoritarian methods can he truly protect his city. This event becomes a major catalyst leading directly into Shadowland. Daredevil travels to Japan, where he is manipulated by other members of the Hand and subjected to a dark ritual known as the Black Flower. When he returns to Hell's Kitchen, everything has changed. Donning a new black suit, Daredevil constructs a fortress called Shadowland, built on the very spot where Bullseye once blew up an apartment building. As time passes, Matt begins to fall under the influence of a malevolent entity, gradually consumed by its possession. In this quest to reshape the Hand into a force of justice, Daredevil instead becomes the very threat others feared he might one day become. Bullseye resurfaces and confronts Daredevil. In response, Daredevil orders his Hand ninjas to attack, but Bullseye cuts through every one of them with brutal precision. Eventually, Daredevil steps in and the two face off in a vicious battle. The fight ends with Daredevil breaking both of Bullseye's arms and then impaling him with his own sai, mirroring the iconic pose Bullseye struck when he impaled Elektra with her own sai years ago. The street level heroes such as Spider-Man, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Misty Knight, Shang-Chi, etc. were shocked, conflicted, and eventually united trying to talk some sense into Daredevil, but it didn't go well. Kingpin summoned Ghost Rider in an attempt to stop Daredevil in the Hand. Believing he had been betrayed by the very heroes he once called friends, Daredevil ordered the Hand to attack them. The heroes were quickly overwhelmed until the Punisher arrived, blasting his way into Shadowland and creating a path for their escape. The following day, while the heroes regrouped and tried to make sense of Daredevil's behavior, Master Izo appears and revealed the terrifying truth. Matt had been possessed by the Beast of the Hand, a demonic entity that was corrupting his soul and driving him deeper into darkness. Elektra returned to aid the heroes in their mission to break into Shadowland, not only to free Matt from the Beast's grip, but also to stop him from resurrecting Bullseye as a weapon of the Hand. Wolverine joined the fight as well, which is unsurprising given his long and bloody history with both ninjas and cults. Eventually, the heroes confronted Daredevil in a final desperate showdown, trying to pull him back from the brink of darkness, but Matt was too far gone. He no longer even identified himself as Matt Murdock. Wolverine drove his claws straight through Daredevil's chest, but to Wolverine's shock, Matt pulled him out and hurled him aside like nothing. Spider-Man followed up, trying to subdue him with webbing, but Daredevil moved too fast. Spidey had to rely entirely on his spider sense, just to predict Matt's movements and land a hit. When it seemed like the heroes had the upper hand, Daredevil proved too powerful. To show how far into the abyss he had fallen, he even overpowered Ghost Rider, laughing as he absorbed the hellfire thrown at him, draining the spirit of vengeance completely and defeating him. Foggy stepped forward, pleading with his best friend, trying to reach the man behind the monster, but his words didn't completely break through. In the final act of hope, Iron Fist uses chi to open a path into Matt's mind, allowing Elektra to reach him directly. There, within the depths of his consciousness, she helped him purge the beast and reclaim control. The exorcism was a success. The demonic entity was cast out, but the cost was heavy. As the dust settled and the heroes believed Matt had perished in the process, he vanished. Racked with guilt over everything that happened, Matt Murdock exiled himself from Hell's Kitchen, seeking atonement for the darkness he let consume him. He traveled to a small town in New Mexico, but trouble was always brewing. Even in places that seemed quiet to the average person, the town was under the grip of a corrupt police chief and a drug trafficking ring run by a man named Calavera, who possessed terrifying mind-manipulating powers. Despite wanting nothing to do with heroics, Matt couldn't ignore the injustice. When the young boy found himself in danger and his father's life was taken for speaking out, Matt was pulled back into the action, though this time not as Daredevil. With no costume, no alias, and no city behind him, it was just Matt Murdock, relying solely on his training, instincts, and an unshakable sense of justice. As he fought to dismantle the operation and protect innocent lives, Matt slowly began to reclaim a sense of purpose. He may have lost himself during Shadowland, but through his journey, he came to understand that he's more than just his past mistakes. By the end of this little story of rebirth, Matt is ready to return home, not as a broken man, but as someone who has faced his inner demons and emerged stronger. He makes his way back to Hell's Kitchen and appears in Foggy's apartment, ready to rebuild Nelson and Murdock and to become Daredevil once again. Geez, at this point, I lost count of how many times the Nelson and Murdock law firm has shut down and reopened. I get it, it's comics, but seriously, where's all this money coming from to fund a constant reboots? Someone's got to be writing some wild checks. So in Mark Waid's run of Daredevil, the series takes a refreshing break from the dark, gritty tone that had defined the character for years, shifting instead to a brighter, more optimistic approach. Matt's goal is to be better, not just as Daredevil, but as a man. He strives to balance the darkness within him with a renewed sense of light and hope. Matt reopens the Nelson and Murdock law firm with Foggy and begins rebuilding his life. However, his identity as Daredevil remains a lingering issue. Having been publicly exposed in previous runs, rather than denied outright, Matt cleverly leans into the ambiguity, using humor, misdirection, and charm to confuse the public and maintain a degree of plausible deniability. As a lawyer, Matt continues to fight for justice, often taking on small but meaningful cases that other firms overlook, cases involving people who have nowhere else to turn. Kirsten McDuffie is introduced as the new assistant district attorney in Hell's Kitchen, smart, confident, and quick-witted. Knowing how Matt is with getting girls, he dates her, and boy, she is a freak. She plays along with the rumors surrounding Matt's identity, often teasing him in public and leaning into the ongoing mystery. In one memorable and cheeky scene, she lifts her shirt to reveal a bra that says "You are Daredevil," causing Matt to break his pencil and thinking to himself, "Damn, this is hot." Imagine in the next panel, Matt just crashes out and says, "F it, we gonna do it right here on his desk. Foggy ain't gonna be here for the next few hours." If I could just dab Matt up through the comic page, I would. Do your business, no one will blame you. Alongside all this, Daredevil comes into possession of the Omega Drive, which is a device made from unstable molecules. It's actually the same material that makes up the Fantastic Four suits, if you guys and girls didn't know that. The Omega Drive is capable of storing vast amounts of encrypted data and contains sensitive information on several powerful criminal organizations, including Hydra, AIM, and Black Spectre, making Daredevil a major target. Spider-Man enters the picture in two separate team-ups. The first happens when Black Cat is framed, and both Matt and Peter work together to clear her name. Once the situation is resolved, things take an unexpected turn. Daredevil and Black Cat start making out. It's a little awkward from my point of view considering her romantic history with Spider-Man, and we even get a hilarious panel of Peter watching them kiss, casually remarking that this is the moment his villain origin story begins. It's messed up, but undeniably funny in classic Spidey fashion. The second team-up is part of the Omega Effect crossover, which includes Daredevil, Spider-Man, and the Punisher. The three heroes devise a plan to draw the crime syndicates out by using Daredevil as bait. He wears a decoy Omega Drive while they prepare for an all-out assault. When the villains strike, the heroes must fight to hold them off while deciding what to do with the actual Omega Drive. In the end, Matt leaks just enough of his contents to the press to destabilize the syndicates without compromising innocent lives, and gets rid of it due to it being too dangerous to have. Afterwards, Matt and Foggy's friendship goes through turbulence, and no Daredevil run would be complete without it, especially when Foggy is diagnosed with cancer, a devastating blow that deeply affects them both. On top of everything else, the rumor about Matt being Daredevil had gotten completely out of hand. It was affecting him professionally, legally, and socially. No matter how hard he tried to play it off, eventually Matt decided to stop dancing around it and publicly confirmed that he was Daredevil. It was his own way of owning the truth and taking control of the narrative. After that, he relocated to San Francisco for a while. A few minor story beats played out during this period. Most notably, it was revealed that Foggy was still alive. Not a huge shock, but still a relief. Matt also faced off against the Purple Man, who had sinister plans involving his own children, kids who had inherited parts of his mind control abilities. Matt managed to stop him and save the children, and in return, the Purple children erased the public's memory of Matt revealing his identity as Daredevil. It was their way of showing gratitude for what he had done for them. Sometime after returning to New York City, Matt starts wearing a black Daredevil suit and takes on a new protege, Samuel Shung, aka Blindspot, a young, undocumented immigrant with an invisibility suit of his own design. During this time, new villains began to surface, including one of the most twisted Daredevil has ever faced, Muse. Muse is a terrifying art-obsessed inhuman who targets heroes, cops, vigilantes, and even other Inhumans. He ends the lives of his victims and uses their bodies and blood to create grotesque art installations, public displays designed to shock, disturb, and provoke. This guy is seriously deranged and a sick bastard. In one of his most brutal acts, Muse gouges out Blindspot's eyes, leaving him permanently scarred and shaking Matt to his core. Enraged by what happened to his protege, Matt goes all out to hunt Muse down and stop him. Muse's horrifying actions aren't just another case, they're deeply personal, and they push Matt further into the shadows of justice. In Daredevil Born Again, Muse is shown to be one of the main reasons Matt puts the suit back on, and the way they portray him really captures how much of a threat he is. He doesn't seem to be an Inhuman unlike his counterpart in the comics, but at least they got his character down in the MCU. In later issues, Matt goes through a near-death experience after being hit by a truck. The rest of the Defenders such as Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and of course Danny tried to help Matt get back on his feet, but he still wasn't all there even after he gained the ability to walk again. He tried to go back out as Daredevil, but he couldn't stay focused while he was in costume. He ended up taking a man's life accidentally while he was trying to stop him and the other robbers from robbing the store. Matt was in disbelief of what he did when he heard about it and how the man died. According to the doctor Daredevil tried to interrogate, the man died due to a blood clot in his head after receiving head trauma from the fight. A detective named Colton North comes into the picture and he's assigned to bring Daredevil in for manslaughter. Daredevil gets confronted by North and tries to escape, but North shot him, leaving Daredevil to bleed out. Daredevil got away from them and went to a clothing store for a quick disguise. The disguise didn't last as soon as North saw through it after he noticed Daredevil's red boots. Daredevil was soon surrounded by cops. All they could do was have a fist fight with North, and he got his ass whooped disrespectfully. He got thrown onto the hood of a cop car and got handcuffed. The Punisher came in and saved them from getting arrested. Matt soon woke up in the Punisher's hideout where Frank tells him that he's finally seen the light after he crossed the line. Frank had a man tied to a chair and at gunpoint. Turns out he works for the Owl. Matt couldn't do anything at the moment but convinced Frank to let him live. This next part really got me shaking my head as Frank did let the guy go, but this man being one of the most dumbest people ever tried to grab a rifle and shoot Frank. Yeah, sure, let me know how that turns out. Oh wait, Frank shot him in the head. Freaking stupid. Matt was furious and broke free from his restraints. What followed was an intense clash between Daredevil and the Punisher. The fight quickly turned one-sided once Matt dual-wielded pistols, firing shots directly at Frank, one to the chest and another to the neck. The next shot wasn't fatal, but it was clear Frank had lost. With the guns still aimed at him, Matt delivered a powerful explanation on why he doesn't use firearms. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. Matt is a master martial artist with insane agility, near perfect reflexes, and a deep understanding of human anatomy. Combine that with his radar sense, and he's basically a walking weapon. If he chose to cross that line, the damage he could inflict would easily surpass Frank's body count. The way he puts it down makes you realize if Daredevil ever went full lethal, it would be pure chaos. Personally, I think that body count would be double what Frank's racked up. Afterwards, Daredevil left Frank tied up for the cops to pick him up, and he went to stop the Owl's operation. Matt didn't last in the fight, and the rest of the Defenders came in to help out, to stop Owl's henchmen and to get him out of there. Matt wakes up in a room with Luke, Jessica, and Danny watching over him, expecting them to take him into custody for accidentally taking that man's life. Matt is surprised when they made it clear that they're not there to arrest him. They're there because they care. The trio opens up to him, each revealing that they too have accidentally taken a life in the past. In their line of work, sometimes tragedy happens, and the only way to move forward is to accept it, learn from it, and strive to be better. Their message isn't about judgment, it's about stopping Matt from tearing himself apart with guilt. They know what it's like to carry that kind of weight, and they're trying to pull him back from the edge before he loses himself completely. They urge him to take care of his mental state before returning to the streets. But Matt, being Matt, can't sit still. He heads back out almost immediately, only to return home and find Spider-Man waiting for him. And honestly, this is the confrontation I've been waiting for. Spider-Man usually the quip slinging comic relief is dead serious here. His presence, his tone, and the weight of what he's about to say carries real emotional gravity. It's a rare, raw moment between two of Marvel's grounded heroes, and it hits harder because of how much respect they have for each other. What follows isn't just a conversation, it's a reckoning. Spider-Man heard about what Daredevil's been up to, including the man's death, fighting the cops, and the Defenders rescuing him from the Owl's men. Spider-Man knows Daredevil is a mess and came to Matt's place to tell him that he's done being Daredevil. He's also spreading the word that if him or any other hero see Daredevil outside, they will stop him. Matt admits that Spider-Man is right, unmasked himself, and gave his mask to Spider-Man, saying that he couldn't do it anymore. This marks the moment Daredevil died that Spider-Man leaves Matt alone in his place. However, this doesn't last. As long as Daredevil's making Marvel money, he's not going anywhere. Let's be honest about that. Matt did spend some time as a civilian, but he'll get back out there sooner than later, just without the Daredevil name. He helped out Detective North when he faced some trouble, and he stuck around with Elektra after she approached him offering her help so Matt can get back out there as a better man. Matt trained with Elektra, slowly regaining his rhythm, and she could notice the man she loves coming back to her. After training, Matt looked into a case involving corruption within the police force. This led him up to Governor Kettle, who was behind the corruption, and working with the Strong One siblings. The Strong One siblings devised a plan to decimate Hell's Kitchen, intentionally driving down the property value so they can buy up the neighborhood for potential gains. Their plan would put the lives of the current residents at risk, either through violence or displacement, leaving many potentially dead or homeless. With Elektra, Matt hit the Strong One siblings where it hurts the most, their pockets. Both of them broke into a heavily guarded server factory, and Elektra hacked into the systems. She withdrew $3 billion from the Strong Ones, and Elektra kept some of the money for herself while she donated the rest to multiple charities. Matt didn't like her keeping some of the money and temporarily cut ties with her. The Strong Ones then take this lightly and gathered a group of villains including Crossbones, Bullseye, the Rhino, and his Stiltman to destroy Hell's Kitchen. It was a massacre. People were getting slaughtered as the group of villains were paid off to destroy anything that was in their way. A group of people who took up the Daredevil mantle tried to fend them off, but it was too much for them. Matt didn't want anyone else to take on the sins that came with being Daredevil, so he decides to reclaim the mantle of Daredevil. Fisk even joined the fight to help defend Hell's Kitchen, especially since he's the mayor of New York City during this time. But honestly, Matt handled most of the work by himself. After the fight ended, Daredevil announced that he would turn himself in. After hearing about this, Foggy offered to be his defense attorney, and Spider-Man appeared in Matt's apartment once again, ready to take him in, after hearing about him returning as Daredevil. But Matt stood his ground against him as he wears the new Daredevil suit, and told him to get out of his place. I don't know about you guys and girls, but I like the new Daredevil suit with the baggy pants better than the classic suit. It looks like he's ready for war in that outfit, and it's a prelude outfit, in my opinion, to the one he'll wear in the Red Fist arc. And I can't wait to get to that story arc. So Matt went to talk to Iron Man, trying to convince him to buy all of Hell's Kitchen to prevent the Strong Ones from buying it up. He also met up with Spider-Man to make things right between them before his trial, which surprised Spider-Man. Spider-Man opened up to Daredevil and said he was sorry for how he acted towards him. He admitted on how he accidentally took a life, and he never told anyone about it. If you guys and girls wonder who it was, she was a former lover of Wolverine's back then named Charlemagne, in one of Spider-Man and Wolverine's team-ups in a series called Spider-Man vs. Wolverine. She wanted to take her own life, and she put herself in the way of Spider-Man's punch. We all know how hard Spider-Man can hit if he really wants to, and she died instantly. Wolverine didn't hold a grudge against him, but that accident made Spider-Man feel guilty about it ever since, and he saw himself in Daredevil. He hasn't told anyone about that, leading to Daredevil giving him a hug, and they talked for hours about life, including their struggles. On the day of his trial, Elektra was there in disguise and whispered to Matt that she bought Hell's Kitchen, taking a huge concern off his back. To everyone's surprise in court, Daredevil pleaded himself guilty and went to prison. But before that, did anyone question themselves on how Matt wore his Daredevil suit in a regular suit? It must have been hot as hell for him in that. I just couldn't. Especially with the tension in that courtroom that could make him sweat. I don't think anyone could do that. More power to him for that. Elektra soon visited Daredevil in prison and let him know that the Hand is coming back. Her and Stick found a book that describes a clan that can defeat the Hand called the Fist. Elektra wanted Daredevil to join her to help her rebuild the Fist, but Daredevil declined due to him not trusting her. In a way to prove herself to Matt, she took up the Daredevil mantle. In prison, Matt met another inmate that would become his friend in there named Marcus. The warden of the prison had a grudge against Daredevil due to him sending his son to prison a while back. He poisoned Daredevil's food and let a group of prisoners loose on him in hopes to get his revenge. But Daredevil survived thanks to remembering a lesson Stick taught him and what he learned from Foggy. In retaliation, Daredevil figured out the warden was using prisoners as lab rats, giving them drugs that make them more violent, resulting in the prison system making more money. Daredevil exposed the warden and what he was doing. 5 weeks later, he's released from prison and back into his Daredevil suit along with Elektra, who is Daredevil too. Both Daredevils will face against Fisk in the Devil's Reign story arc. In this story, Fisk banned all vigilantes, or we should just say superheroes, from roaming the streets of New York City. It was up to the Daredevils and the rest of the superhero community to outmaneuver Fisk. By the end of the story, Fisk was defeated and wasn't the mayor of New York City anymore. Instead, Luke Cage was elected the mayor of New York City, and to this day as I'm recording the video, he's still the mayor, which is good to know. The Daredevil Born Again show adapted this story arc, and I hear that they're going to escalate the stakes of the story in season 2 of Born Again by reuniting the Defenders, and hopefully, fingers crossed, more street level heroes. Don't put too much faith in Spider-Man making a return though. In fact, keep all this with a grain of salt. It's still just rumors, we don't know for sure. I have more faith in the Defenders making a return. Still exciting though. But let's move on to Matt leaving New York City afterwards to join Elektra and stick in establishing the Fist to fight off the Hand and the Punisher, who recently became their leader. Surprisingly enough, Matt brought Cole and Foggy with him and they flew to the base of the Fist. The Fist required a king and queen to lead them. That's where Matt and Elektra come in. Both of them had to do a ritual to become husband and wife, as well as the king and queen of the Fist. After they completed it, they were officially, or I should say spiritually, married. The next move was to recruit more potential members of the Fist. Daredevil infiltrated a maximum security prison called the Myrmidon to break criminals out and recruit them. John Walker, aka US Agent, came into the scene to stop what Daredevil was doing and mentioned on how he was right with God, leading to one of Matt's coldest lines ever, with him responding, "If you were, he wouldn't have sent the devil." All while he shuts off the lights. All you can see is his red eyes right before they fight. That panel was dope. You know, I looked into and read Chip Zdarsky's run with Batman 2. Man, I think he's one of my favorite storytellers, along with Jonathan Hickman, Scott Snyder, and Frank Miller. This man cooked in this run. The fight resulted in Daredevil easily whooping US Agent's ass, and to add to the disrespect, he also took his shield. Iron Man and Captain America reviewed the footage of what happened later on, and from their perspective, it looked very bad. Elektra was also seen on camera seemingly taking out the president. What they didn't know, however, was that it wasn't actually the real president. The Hand had been using his body for their own sinister purposes, manipulating events from behind the scenes. The Avengers, unaware of the truth, saw just enough to justify action. From their point of view, this was a serious breach, and it gave them enough reason to start organizing against Daredevil and Elektra, setting the stage and teasing a major Avengers vs Daredevil conflict down the line. The Punisher and the Hand was also ready for their assault on Daredevil and the Fist. The battle soon started when the Punisher arrived with the Dragon and the Hand. Daredevil and the Fist responded by fighting back. Matt had a one-on-one fight with Frank. Both of them were buffed, enhancing their abilities. Matt was buffed with the magic of the Fist, while Frank was buffed with the abilities as the Beast of the Hand, increasing the stakes of the fight. Like before Zdarsky's run, Daredevil came out as the winner of the fight, but the Fist was losing in numbers compared to the Hand, forcing them to retreat. After Matt woke up, he saw many members of the Fist were injured, but Matt didn't seem satisfied. He still wanted to fight the Hand and destroy them permanently. This led to a disagreement with Cole, resulting in him wanting to leave the Fist, along with a few other members. The Stromwinds, who has been after Matt and Elektra since they stole billions of dollars from them, eventually called, telling Matt that their next obstacle is on their way. All of a sudden, canisters filled with gas known as Resid fell from an aircraft. Resid is a drug that the warden experimented on the prisoners with, making them violent back when Matt was in prison earlier in Zdarsky's run. Resid had the same effect on everyone exposed to it at the Fist hideout. If that wasn't enough, the Avengers found Daredevil and the Fist, and they started an all-out attack on them. Matt tried to get Foggy somewhere safe, but a huge twist is revealed, as Foggy and Stick were already dead. The Hand was using their bodies to spy on Matt and Elektra. The real Foggy died during the Devil's Reign story arc. As far as when Stick died, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't research that far into that since this video is based on Matt, but if any of you guys and girls know how and when Stick died, type it down in the comment section below. The real Foggy and Stick were down in hell. Matt was shocked, but he couldn't stay like that for long, as the Avengers, including Spider-Man, Captain America, and Iron Man, landed on the battlefield. While everyone else is fighting each other, Daredevil is fighting Spider-Man by himself. Even with his enhanced abilities of the Fist, Daredevil still questioned if he was a match for Spider-Man in a straight-up fight. Spider-Man is too strong, fast, and durable for Daredevil to defeat. And if anybody wonders if Daredevil can beat Spider-Man in a fight, Daredevil questioning himself on that alone answers your question. Like, there's no way he can beat Spider-Man. The only way Daredevil had to quote-unquote beat Spider-Man in this occasion is to use his own webbing against him so he can have enough time to escape. An avalanche soon started, forcing the Avengers to save what they can before they get caught up in it. Elektra was captured along with a few others, and Matt escaped. In the next few weeks, Matt stayed over at Cole's place and was in a depressed state until Cole called him out, told him to get back out there and fix everything. Matt did just that and suited up in preparation for his final confrontation with the Stromwinds. Daredevil threatened the Stromwinds to release Elektra and the others, and then he went to Japan right after to finish the prophecy the Book of the Fist mentioned by going to Hell to defeat the Beast of the Hand and save Foggy. Matt reunited with Blindspot, who was there because of what Stick told him. Blindspot pointed Matt to the entrance to Hell. After ending his own life and going into Hell, Matt saw his dad, Matt Murdock, and they walked deeper into Hell. On the way down the stairs, there's a clean transition from Matt's red suit to a white Daredevil suit. I'm guessing the suit symbolizes Matt's faith, and I thought the suit with baggy pants was an improvement, but the color change on top of it makes it a step up in my opinion. I just wish this suit lasted longer though. The art in these issues give it justice. If you guys and girls want to check it out, it's Daredevil issue 12 and 13 of this run. By the time Matt confronted the Beast of the Hand, it's revealed that the sister of the Beast took the appearance of Matt Murdock. She was the evil entity behind the Fist, and her sinister motive was to use Daredevil and the Fist to defeat the Beast and take his place. This made Matt have a moment of disbelief, but he quickly came to his senses. He freed Foggy, Stick, the President, and the rest of the world leaders from Hell. Matt also fought and defeated the Beast, but he was also trapped in Hell. Sometime later, Matt did come back with amnesia and he became a priest. But we all know Daredevil is going to come back like always, so let's move on to his skills and abilities. So Matt is a master martial artist in various fighting styles like boxing, ninjutsu, jujitsu, judo, etc. He has peak agility and acrobatics. He's in peak human conditioning, including strength, speed, stamina, durability, reflexes, and even has a higher than average pain tolerance, which is not surprising to be honest, after what he's been through in the comics, and in the Netflix show, and Born Again. He's also an expert in stealth, he has detective skills, he's an expert lawyer, he has heightened senses including touch, smell, taste, and hearing, and we can't forget about the radar sense, which is an echolocation-like ability that gives Matt a 360-degree awareness of everything around him, like a mental sonar map. It makes up for his lack of sight in incredible ways, even letting him quote-unquote see in pitch darkness. As far as his weapons, there's his signature billy clubs, which is a custom multi-purpose weapon. It acts as a baton, grappling hook, cable, and nunchaku. As far as his weaknesses, his heightened senses are a double-edged sword when he's exposed to loud noises, intense smells, or sudden bursts of light disrupting his radar sense. He tends to internalize blame, punish himself, and push people away, leading to isolation and recklessness. Matt's also really stubborn and refuses help at times, resulting in him going through burnout and or having an emotional breakdown. And the last thing for his weaknesses is being a lawyer, and Daredevil can often put Matt in legal and ethical conflict with himself. Moving on to nerd facts. The kids that bullied Matt when he was younger nicknamed him Daredevil. In the original iteration and in Daredevil Yellow, the yellow part in Daredevil's red and yellow suit is made from Jack Murdock's boxing robe. Matt was married to a blind woman named Mila Donovan, but they got divorced after it was revealed that he cheated with Dakota North. And the final nerd fact is that after Fisk became the mayor of New York City, he appointed Matt to be his deputy mayor, but after the Hand attacked New York City, leaving Fisk injured, Matt became the mayor of New York City for a short amount of time while Fisk recovered. Matt soon stepped down after Fisk came back fully healed of his injuries and the Hand was stopped. Now moving on to personal thoughts. I don't have too many thoughts about Daredevil besides little nitpicks here and there with how stubborn Matt is, especially when he keeps risking his friendship with Foggy over and over again, along with them opening, closing, and reopening the Nelson and Murdock law firm constantly. But that's just comics. It's another reason why I love reading manga. I love character development, and you can notice a huge difference from the start to the end of the manga. Yes, there is character development in comics, but that's rare, so comic publishers can make more money and continue printing out more books. I like Daredevil, and he is a really good character. I just think he's due for a status change in a good way. Maybe have him reform the Fist alongside Elektra without the bad influence behind the clan. And sometime later, Elektra gets pregnant since they are married. Well, hopefully they're still married. I haven't read the recent books since they're not as good as Zdarsky's run in my opinion, but just imagine that Matt and Elektra's kid will be deadly as hell, especially if she's born blind but develops the more powerful radar sense than Matt. After everything Matt's been through, I think he grew out of just being a lawyer and Daredevil at night. But all in all, I have no issues with Daredevil besides those nitpicks. Besides all that, if you were entertained, thought it was educational like what I said or all of the above, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment, and turn on post notifications, especially if you're a new viewer. If you want to support the channel even more, my links will be down in the description box below. And I'll talk to you guys and girls later. Peace.